Welcome back to Retro Mafia. Today's video, I've got 10 Game Boy games under $20 that I think you should have in your collection. Now, I will start off by saying these 10 games can be Game Boy, Game Boy Color, or Game Boy Advance, although most of the ones I chose are Game Boy Advance. I don't know if that's because I have a hidden love for Game Boy Advance games, or if I just couldn't find enough Game Boy Color and Game Boy games. But I tried to add a little bit of variety in with it. So first off, we will start with one of my favorites from a kid, or as a kid, Bomberman on the Game Boy. Now if that'll focus, struggling there. This game's going to run you about $6 loose, which for reference, all the games that I'm going to show today are going to be loose prices, although most of the ones I'm showing are in boxes. That's just because of how I had them. 48 levels in the story mode. Pretty fun. It's, you know, each level is going to be a different kind of puzzle. I believe there's different characters in this. It's been a while since I've played it, but I'm sure I can pick it back up and get going. You can connect it to a Super Game Boy, like the adapter Super Game Boy, on the Super Nintendo and have 4-player mode. There's a couple mini games with it, as well as a battle mode. Very fun. The only negative to it is, I mean, it's a puzzle game. It can get a little repetitive. Probably, you know, you're not going to try to beat this in one sitting, but it's a fun game nonetheless. Okay, coming in at number 2, we have another favorite, Pokemon Pinball. Now, this game is going to run you about $9. If you love pinball, obviously you're going to love this, especially if you love Pokemon. It featured 2 maps, a red and a blue map, each with their different Pokemon. Offered, you know, high scores, which kept everything competitive, as well as you could upgrade from like a Pokeball to a Great Ball to an Ultra Ball to a Master Ball. And it had the Rumble feature, which was great. I would say, you know, as far as the negative goes, I know I hate to keep saying this, but like if you don't like pinball or something like that, it's probably not going to be your game. It's not your typical Pokemon game, like go out and catch them all. But for what it is, you know, it's definitely worth $9 in my opinion. Okay, at number 3, this one kind of felt a little bit like cheating. If, you know, I mean, I don't see how you could go wrong with it, but we've got Zelda, A Link to the Past on the Game Boy Advance. This one's going to run you about 15 bucks. Once again, loose. All these prices today will be loose prices, but it's just such a fun game. You know, a remake from the Super Nintendo one. Plus it had the little multiplayer feature of the 4 swords that you could connect. I mean, what more is there to say? Great story. The graphics were just great at the time and still are really good on it. You know, if you want to nitpick a negative, maybe if you have the Super Nintendo one, you could say you don't need it. But I mean, honestly, it's a great game, and for 15 bucks loose, I don't see how you could possibly go wrong with playing this. It's going to give you hours of enjoyment. Okay, number 4 takes us to Yu-Gi-Oh! Dungeon Dice Monsters on the Game Boy Advance. This game's going to run you about $8 loose. I think you might can get this one complete for under 20, which is a deal, but you wouldn't have to get it complete. Over 100 different monsters to summon. I think it's like 80 plus people you can compete against or interact with. There's tournament mode as well as single player mode, and I think the tournaments have different like levels, like easy, harder, and stuff like that. It's got the really fun dice mechanic. If you're a fan of the show, you're going to absolutely love this, especially if you like those few episodes. They didn't really do a lot of these, but as far as the negative, I know it keeps getting repetitive, but if you don't like Yu-Gi-Oh!, not your game, you're not going to like it, don't pick it up. But if you do like Yu-Gi-Oh!, $8 can't go wrong. It's a very fun play. Okay, we're at the halfway point, coming up at 5. This is a game that I really wanted to get one of them into this series, and it's going to be Harvest Moon, Friends of Mineral Town. Now, I was between this one or the first one on the Game Boy Color, because the third one's also good. It's right at the $20 mark though. This game's going to run you about $18. So, you know, it's your typical Harvest Moon. Customize your farm, plant crops, raise livestock, You can get married in this game. It's got multiple different people to meet and places to go. The only negative, really, I mean, you can really get burned out on a Harvest Moon game, but as far as picking it up here and there, playing it, you're gonna love it. You can't go wrong with it. $18, it's a great deal. 6 takes me to probably one of my favorite games as a kid on the Game Boy, if not my favorite. Super Mario Land 6 Golden Coins. This game is gonna run you about $12. It's a great fun game. The graphics at the time, I remember them being like so great. I'm sure they didn't age very well, but great game. Multiple different worlds, or zones is what the game calls them, but I believe it's 6, plus I think there's one more, because I think you have to cast one. I think that's an extra one, but that might be the 6th. Each world has its different boss and different kind of area. I know there's a space one. I think there's one where there's like the 3 little pigs, and I want to say there's a witch, but that's all I can remember off the top of my head. Game keeps you hooked with the different worlds, and like it doesn't get tiresome. It's not just the same like multiple, like 8 worlds, 1 map, and then go to the next one. I do think this is kind of a quick game, but it's, you know, it's not the end of the world. The only negative with it, I would say, it's not your typical Mario game. It's you know, it's one world and then you go to the next, but very enjoyable nonetheless. Okay, next, this is game number 7. It's actually a 2-parter. Dragon Ball Z Legacy of Goku 1 and 2. Now, these are going to run you about $7 each, which I think for these games is just an absolute steal. I had a great time with the story. I remember, I believe the second one was a little better than the first one, but, you know, once again, at $7, that's just a steal. Great story. Follows the Dragon Ball Z sagas. The first one you'll go through all the way through the Frieza saga, and this one will take you through the Android and Cell saga. You can play as multiple characters in this one. Pretty sure you can only play as Goku in this one. Negative, I mean, honestly, for the price, I can't really think of anything. I know, like I said, I'm pretty sure that this one was a little better, so if you were only going to get one, but I would definitely pick up this one first. The graphics in them, the play, I just don't see where you can go wrong with them. They're great games, $7. You gotta have them. At number 8, I decided to go with Final Fantasy Tactics. Now, this one's gonna run you about $14. It's got a very deep story, deep gameplay. The graphics are really nice. Plays similar to Fire Emblem if you've never played like a tactics game, if you didn't play it on PS1, or like a Shining Force. Those are the ones that come to mind. Lots of customizations with the different features of the roles and things like that. As far as a negative goes on it, you know, it's probably not going to be for light play. It's a more in-depth kind of game. It's an RPG, so probably not going to be, you know, just something if you're trying to pass a, you know, 30 minutes or something. But great game. This is for $14. I mean, I feel like it's a no-brainer. Okay, coming up on our last 2 at 9, Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland. Now, this game's going to run you about $15. Great graphics for what it is. Fun game, fun gameplay. Over 20 different transformations that you can use to make Kirby more powerful. Multiplayer mini games, which were really fun. Lots of different enemies and bosses to conquer. This is a game I always recommend to people when people ask me what's a good game on the Game Boy, or Game Boy Advance in this case. But the only really I can't think of a negative for this game. I remember getting this game as a kid and provided me with just hours and hours of entertainment. So I can't really think of one. I'm sure there's something that's just slipping my mind, but $15, I mean, this game's going to be a great play for $15. Okay, last but definitely not least, at 10, WarioWare Inc. Mega Mini Games on the Game Boy Advance. This game's going to run you about $16. It's so much fun. It's going to provide you instant play, instant fun, over 200 mini games to play. You go to each of these people's like little place or whatever, and they have a different genre of mini games. As far as a negative on it, the only thing I would say is it's probably not something you're going to play for hours and hours on end. Like, this is kind of going back to this. Like, this one you're going to play for a long time. This one you're, playing here and there, 30 minutes, an hour at a time maybe. Great game though, 16 bucks, had to put it on the list. I remember, I think my sister actually got this game, and I would borrow it any chance I got. It was a great game. Okay, those are the 10 I decided to go with. I hope you'll give at least a few of them a try. New video next Tuesday. Be sure to leave us a like, drop a comment, let me know some games that I need to put in my collection on the Game Boy under $20. I really like Game Boy collecting. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't, and follow us on Instagram at retro_mafia_gaming. And as always, guys, keep on gaming.